What's up guys, my name is Jake and welcome to Abandoned, episode 59. From pretty much any angle, downtown Chicago is a spectacular urban center with a tantalizing skyline. Especially from the air, this dense urban core looks even more impressive and sprawling, all but for one noticeable section of undeveloped land just at the mouth of the Chicago River. What's even more mysterious is the enormous man-made hole in the ground. But that's actually the remnants of one of the most ambitious skyscraper projects in North America. It would have been not only the tallest tower in Chicago and America, but at the time, the whole world. This was truly a momentous project that was poised to shape the skyline of Chicago forever. However, as construction began on this monolithic tower, everything just stopped. So today, join me as I look into what this infamous project was set to become, how millions of dollars were wasted on a dream so close to becoming reality, and how an 80-foot deep foundation sits abandoned even to this day. This is the Chicago Spire. This episode is sponsored by Skillshare. Click the link in the description below to get a free trial of Skillshare's premium membership. In 2005, Christopher Carley and his development organization, the Fordham Company, proposed a super tall skyscraper reaching 116 floors with a tall broadcast antenna on top. The tower was designed by esteemed architect Santiago Calatrava, the same designer who created the turning torso and also who went on to create the Oculus at World Trade Center. His portfolio shows a vast array of flowing and nature-like approaches to design. The Fordham Spire was to be the ultimate apotheosis of this, a winding curtain of glass that towers over the neighborhoods below. A building that would be a continuous spiral to the very top. The location of this project was set to be in DuSable Park, an undeveloped patch of land along Lakeshore Road. However, because of that road splicing through the middle of the parcel, the tower's surface area would only take up around 2 acres of land, meaning it would have to be rather slender, at least for the area and time. In early 2006, the Chicago Plan Commission had approved the tower to proceed further. Despite this, however, Fordham was having trouble finding their proper financing to get the project going. They eventually sold off their land and project IP to an Irish-based firm named the Shelbourne Development Company. Garrett Kelleher was their CEO, and now with their own money behind the concept, the tower's development moved forward. With that approval from the city, the height restrictions were lifted, and plans grew to an all-condominium tower topping off at 2,000 feet. With the name now changed simply to the Chicago Spire, this new design also eliminated the radio tower, making the skyscraper into a 150-floor, 1,193-unit super condo building. The spire would rise well above the already tallest building in Chicago, that being the Sears Tower, and would have become the tallest building on the planet. That title, however, would have been beat out by Dubai's Burj Khalifa, which was set to open in 2010. Regardless, this tower was enormous and quite a unique piece of architecture for its time. In fact, careful consideration was given to how the design would affect natural occurrences like bird migrations, and the winding tower would allow for every apartment to have a slightly unique floor plan. It was promised to be eco-friendly and have minimal disturbances to the otherwise quiet neighborhood. It also was to be constructed so that the majority of traffic would funnel out onto Lakeshore Road and not onto the quiet North Water Street. Actually, speaking of all of those cars, they wouldn't be crowding up valuable surface space. No, this enormous tower would have 7 levels of underground parking, making it the largest in the city. Since that meant only the surface area of the building would be minimal, the rest of the adjacent land would become green park space open to the public. The total estimated cost of the project was somewhere around $2 billion, and as the development company worked closely with local leaders to revise the skyscraper even further, the Chicago Spire had a promising future. With an estimated construction date of 2007 and an opening in 2012, by March of 2007, local residents seemed to have liked where this development went, and now the project met minimal opposition. However, it is important to note that many people had mixed feelings and doubt on even the validity of getting it done. But the developers of course pressed forward, and after the zoning committee and subsequent Chicago City Hall both approved the final project plans, Chicago Spire was fully approved and ready to start construction. Hundreds of thousands of dollars was spent on a sales center as floor plans began to pop up on the MLS, and by summer of 2007, ground was broken. Construction then commenced on the enormous and audacious foundation. Because Chicago Spire was such a tall and slender tower, a deep and complex foundation would need to be dug. First with what is called a cofferdam, which essentially is a large enough walled-off opening, in this case underground, to allow the tower's concrete spine, which would contain elevators and staircases, to be constructed. By June, Shelbourne announced the Chicago Spire was already 30% sold, including the $40 million two-floor penthouse.
How happy are you that 30% of the building is already sold?
We're very excited about that. This project's going ahead.
Were you a little afraid that if it wasn't going to sell, you're going to have to bring all this down?
No.
Never in doubt.
Never in doubt.
People working on the project hopes were high, but this was all about to abruptly come to an end. By mid-2008, the subprime mortgage crisis was sending America into a recession, and obviously a financial crisis is bad for a luxury condo tower. As the completion of this foundation neared, it was announced work would slow down at the site. However, this is when things started to go wrong. By October of 2008, the building's architect Santiago Calatrava stated that Shelbourne owed him over $11 million in unpaid fees. Another missed payment of around $4 million was also claimed by another architectural firm that they hired. The fees were stacking up, and to make matters worse, the primary lender for the operation, that being the crumbling Anglo-Irish Bank, was essentially on the brink of bankruptcy. With their lendings in peril, of course the bank had frozen all investments, now meaning the Chicago Spire was out of capital. Almost immediately thereafter, Shelbourne put the project on temporary hold until the necessary funds could be allocated for further construction. This was a bad sign, and people who bought condos already started to ask for their deposits back. Even more concerning was the fact that no construction company for the actual tower had been chosen yet, as the site stood still with no vertical progress. According to the Wall Street Journal, Shelbourne was in almost $70 million in debt for the Spire development. As their financial condition worsened, even smaller aspects of the project were falling through. The building to which Shelbourne had been leasing space for their preview center filed a lawsuit claiming the company was in over $300,000 late in rent payments. By summer of 2009, and with little recovery from the global financial crisis, Bank of America then also filed a lawsuit seeking restitution of almost $5 million in unpaid loans. By the end of that year, however, it seemed the luck of the Chicago Spire might actually begin to change, as Kelleher announced that he would be meeting with the AFL-CIO, standing for the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations. See, jobs, especially in the city and really all of America, were scarce, and with unemployment creeping to all-time highs, the Spire project could become a huge source of several year-long jobs. So if construction moved to an all-union-based workforce, then Shelbourne could secure a $170 million union loan. Within just a few weeks, however, this deal fell through, and when the Chicago Business newspaper asked other local unions if they would consider investing, they all said no. It was now early 2010, and with the site sitting dormant, that suit over the unpaid rent at their preview center had finally been concluded, with Shelbourne being evicted from the building. By the end of that year, yet another lawsuit was filed, this time from their old friend, the Anglo-Irish Bank. Now it was time for their reckoning, in the form of a $77 million lawsuit aimed directly at Shelbourne Development Group. Shelbourne ultimately filed for bankruptcy soon after. As the project site sat abandoned over the next few years, in 2013 the property went up for sale through an Irish asset management company. The sale attracted several bidders, including Atlas Apartment Holdings, to which Shelbourne Development sought to partner with in a sort of way to emerge from their bankruptcy with a $135 million loan, as if they hadn't taken enough money already. In this 2014 agreement, they would act as the developers and Atlas would manage the tower. Yes, they were still intending for the Spire to go forward. Shelbourne also agreed to a new payment plan with creditors, mainly a company called Related Midwest. However, of course, in true Shelbourne fashion, by October of that year, they failed to pay Related Midwest. With this payment delinquency, Related Midwest went for their land, filing a lawsuit to try and take ownership of the deed. And just a month later, the court ruled in Midwest's favor, and they took control of the property. Soon after, it was announced that they would not build the Chicago Spire. The project, just like its foundations, was officially abandoned. Related Midwest then got working on their own, more feasible vision of the site. However, the Garrett Kelleher saga of lawsuits didn't end here, as in 2018, he filed a lawsuit. Haha, tables are turned. He filed a $1.2 billion lawsuit against the National Asset Management Company for, quote, sheer spite and consistent incompetence when dealing with him and the Chicago Spire project. We'll see where that lawsuit goes. Meanwhile, in the same year, Related Midwest revealed what their plans were for the former Spire site. Over the years, there have been other concepts for the land, however, this was the first with lots of planning behind it. They unveiled a 2-tower condo development, the tallest with a luxury hotel and mixed condos topping out at around 1,100 feet, with the smaller tower at 850 feet. The design is a lot less striking and certainly blends in more with the skyline, with interesting rounded glass panels shaping the towers. Emphasis was put on the actual design of the project, including elements harkening back from Chicago's architectural past. While this is a much more standard development and nothing that will necessarily grab headlines or break records around the world, it is beautiful and probably a more realistic project to see through. That being said, however, the concept was rejected by Chicago's vice mayor over concerns ranging from security to the height of the podium of the 2 towers. In mid-2020, they submitted a revised version of this $1 billion plan. Now, with mixed feedback, the developers have stated they would like to get started on construction in early 2021. However, just like the original Spire project, the company has to navigate through a nation coming off an economic recession. So we'll see if they make that deadline. At this point, it has been over 15 years since Christopher Carley had a dream for an ultra-tall skyscraper unlike any other in the world. One to keep Chicago reaching for the skies, and even for a short time, break world records. It would have drastically changed the skyline of the iconic city, and it is truly unbelievable how close it got. However, at the same time, I can't understand why many people would say, well, all they did was dig a hole, and yeah, to some extent that is true. I don't think the developers who eventually took control of the Spire set out to scam people, but the mess that it turned into doesn't look great. According to Kelleher, he stated that he personally invested $195 million into the project. That absolutely blows my mind, because at this point, the Spire is never getting built, and all of the time, money, and effort from hundreds of people, all confident they were building something so big and so real, well, it was all for nothing. So yeah, it is a bit annoying to think how that money could have been alternatively spent. However, in their defense, I think at least they had no idea that this would be the outcome. Afterwards, the remnants of the tower can only be seen from the enormous circular hole in the ground. After all these years, now filled with water and foliage surrounding the rim, the scaffolding just has a staircase leading down into deep water, and the hole now is a local joke in Chicago. Perhaps the foundation will be used in the new development, but I think in some way this site will always be remembered for the infamous concepts of what would have been. One that had high hopes, but after a catastrophic series of events, sent this tower spiraling in the wrong direction. Even though the Spire was designed in the mid to late 2000s, I have to say their interiors and floor plans aren't all that great. Like, what is this weird built-in curved bed base? Then again, I don't know much about interior design. So, among the many courses that today's sponsor Skillshare offers, I can easily educate myself on the fundamentals of interior design. Skillshare is a great tool for people like you and me, who enjoy learning about new things, especially when they're presented in an engaging way. There are thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people helping explore new skills from photography to video editing. Skillshare has even been a great resource for me to make my videos better by learning new techniques and how to better present media. Nikki Steffen's course was particularly helpful to me. The site is built for you to learn, so everything is ad-free, and with an annual subscription, membership is under $10 a month. But just for this video, the first 1,000 people who use my link in the description below will get a free trial where you can explore your creativity. Follow BrightSunFilms on Twitter, and I also just made a Reddit page, so you can go follow me there too. Anyway guys, my name is Jake, and thank you very much for watching.